Welcome to the Unspoken, the channel where we reveal the hidden truths behind history. Today, imagine a world where a single act of aggression can unleash a war that will engulf the whole planet. A world where new weapons and machines will bring unprecedented levels of destruction and death. A world where millions of people will fight and die for different causes and ideologies. A world where the old order will crumble and the new order will emerge. This is the world of World War II, the war that shaped the 20th century. In this episode of The Unspoken, we will uncover the hidden truths behind this global conflict that still affects us today. The invasion of Poland and the outbreak of war. This was the event that started the war. On September 1, 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, a neighboring country in Eastern Europe. The invasion was part of Hitler's plan to expand Germany's territory and create a living space for the Aryan race. This provoked a chain of reactions that led to the outbreak of war. Britain and France, who had pledged to protect Poland, declared war on Germany on September 3, 1939. This marked the beginning of World War II in Europe. Soon, other countries joined the war either as allies or enemies of Germany. On one side were the Axis powers, which included Germany, Italy, Japan, and their allies. On the other side were the Allied powers, which included Britain, France, the Soviet Union, the United States, China, and their allies. The map below shows the alliances of the world in 1942. You can see how the war became a global struggle, involving almost every continent and ocean. The Blitzkrieg and the fall of France. World War II was the first war to use a new strategy of warfare called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. This strategy involved using fast and coordinated attacks by tanks, planes, and infantry to surprise and overwhelm the enemy. The Blitzkrieg was very effective and allowed Germany to conquer many countries in a short time. One of the most stunning victories of the Blitzkrieg was the fall of France, one of the strongest and richest countries in Europe. In May 1940, Germany launched a massive invasion of France through Belgium and the Netherlands. The French and British armies were unable to stop the German advance, and were pushed back to the coast. On June 14, 1940, Paris, the capital of France, fell to the Germans. On June 22, 1940, France surrendered to Germany, and was divided into two zones, one occupied by the Germans, and one controlled by a puppet government loyal to Hitler. The Battle of Britain and the Air War. After the fall of France, Britain was the only major country left to resist Germany in Europe. Hitler wanted to invade Britain, but he knew he had to defeat the British Air Force first. He ordered the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, to launch a massive bombing campaign against Britain, targeting its cities, factories, ports, and airfields. This was known as the Battle of Britain, and it lasted from July to October 1940. The Battle of Britain was the first major battle fought entirely in the air. It was also a battle of courage and endurance, as the British pilots and civilians faced the relentless attacks of the German bombers and fighters. The British Air Force, known as the Royal Air Force, or RAF, was outnumbered and outgunned, but it fought bravely and skillfully, using radar and radio to coordinate its defenses. The British people also showed their resilience and defiance, as they endured the bombings and carried on with their lives. The Battle of Britain was a turning point in the war, as it prevented Germany from invading Britain, and gave hope to the other countries fighting against the Nazis. The attack on Pearl Harbor and the entry of the United States. While the war was raging in Europe, another war was brewing in Asia. Japan, an ally of Germany and Italy, was expanding its empire in China and Southeast Asia, seeking to control the natural resources and markets of the region. The United States, which had strong economic and political interests in Asia, opposed Japan's aggression, and imposed sanctions and embargoes on Japan, cutting off its oil and steel supplies. Japan decided to strike back at the United States, and planned a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, a naval base in Hawaii. On December 7, 1941, Japanese planes launched a devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, sinking or damaging 18 ships, including 8 battleships, and killing or wounding over 3,000 Americans. The attack was a shock and a tragedy for the United States, and it also changed the course of the war. The next day, December 8, 1941, the United States declared war on Japan, and joined the Allied powers. 4 days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States, making World War II a truly global war. The Holocaust and the genocide of the Jews. World War II was not only a war of armies and nations, but also a war of ideologies and races. Hitler and the Nazis believed that they were the superior race, and that they had the right to eliminate anyone who was inferior or different from them. They especially hated the Jews, whom they blamed for all the problems of Germany and the world. They also persecuted and killed other groups, such as Roma, Slavs, communists, homosexuals, and people with disabilities. The Nazis carried out their plan to exterminate the Jews in a systematic and brutal way. They forced the Jews to live in ghettos, where they suffered from hunger, disease, and violence. They deported the Jews to concentration camps, where they were enslaved, tortured, and killed. They built death camps, where they used gas chambers and crematoria to murder the Jews in large numbers. This was known as the Holocaust, or the Shoah, and it was the most horrific genocide in history. Between 1933 and 1945, the Nazis killed about 6 million Jews, and millions of other victims. The D-Day and the liberation of Europe. By 1944, the tide of the war had turned against the Axis powers. The Soviet army was advancing from the east, and the Allied army was advancing from the north and the south. The Allies decided to launch a massive invasion of Western Europe, to open a new front and to free the countries occupied by the Nazis. This invasion was codenamed Operation Overlord, and it was the largest amphibious operation in history. The invasion began on June 6, 1944, which is known as D-Day. On that day, more than 150,000 Allied soldiers, supported by thousands of ships and planes, landed on the beaches of Normandy, in northern France. They faced fierce resistance from the German troops, who had built fortifications and obstacles along the coast. The battle was bloody and chaotic, but the Allies managed to secure a foothold and to push inland. The invasion of Normandy was the beginning of the liberation of Europe, as the Allies gradually liberated France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and other countries from the Nazi tyranny. The atomic bombs and the end of the war. While the war in Europe ended on May 8, 1945, with the surrender of Germany, the war in Asia continued. Japan refused to surrender, and fought fiercely to defend its homeland and its colonies. The United States decided to use a new and powerful weapon to force Japan to surrender, the atomic bomb. The atomic bomb was a result of a secret project called the Manhattan Project, which involved the research and development of nuclear weapons. The United States dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, a city in Japan, on August 6, 1945. The bomb exploded with a force equivalent to 15,000 tons of TNT, and killed or injured about 140,000 people. The bomb also destroyed most of the city, and caused radiation sickness and cancer for many survivors. The United States dropped the second atomic bomb on Nagasaki, another city in Japan, on August 9, 1945. The bomb exploded with a force equivalent to 21,000 tons of TNT, and killed or injured about 74,000 people. The bomb also destroyed much of the city, and caused similar effects as the first bomb. The atomic bombs were the most destructive weapons ever used in war, and they marked the dawn of the nuclear age. The atomic bombs shocked and devastated Japan, and convinced its leaders to surrender. On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced the surrender of Japan, and on September 2, 1945, Japan signed the formal surrender document aboard the USS Missouri, a battleship in Tokyo Bay. This was the end of World War II, the war that lasted 6 years and claimed the lives of more than 60 million people. Thank you for watching this episode of The Unspoken. We hope you learned something new and interesting about World War II. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more. Also, don't forget to leave a comment and share your thoughts and questions. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.